دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today's talk is about the importance of abstinence from the unnecessary argumentations with each other, which is called the munazara. So Imam Ghazali rahimahullah says that we should not indulge in unnecessary munazaras or the argumentations. There are 8 conditions he describes that if someone wants to engage in an argumentation with somebody else, that should be the conditions. So those 8 conditions we won't go into, but in a summary, it should be a very big scholar, a mufti and a mujtahid who can do the ijtihad, and his intention should be to correct himself and to correct others, and not to defeat others, and not to seek bad things and flaws of others. So that is the summary. But what happens if a person gets indulged into such kind of manazaras or the argumentations? What happens, and what are the risks, and what are the drawbacks of such manazaras? So these things, the first drawback which happens with these manazaras is that we just, first of all, let's see that why, like where in the Quran it says that don't argue with each other, or like or where in Quran discourages the argumentations with each other. So there are ayat in the Quran and in hadith. For example, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ, that in the people who have some narrowness in their hearts. And similarly, there are hadiths which, for example, أَبْغَضُ الْخَلْقِ إِلَى اللَّهِ الْأَلَدُّ الْخَصِيمِ, that the person who is not likable amongst Allah, like before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the person who always fights and argues and quarrels with each other. So it's not a good habit. And what are its drawbacks? Let's start on those drawbacks. So the first drawback is that it leads to hasad, or the jealousy amongst in our hearts, the envy. So from among these, a mention might be made of envy. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the envy consumes the good deeds in the same way as fire consumes the wood. And the debater could not be free from envy, because at times he overcomes his opponent, and at other times he himself is overcome. And at times his words are praised, and at other times those of his opponent, their words are praised. So if he is becoming happy when he is praised, and if he's becoming jealous when the other person is being praised, that's not right. That's not what Islam says. Whatever Islamic debate you're doing, you should not be happy on the defeat of your brother, and you are becoming happy, you're jealous of him, you're envious of him, which is not right. So as long as there remains in the world one famous among a man for his like amongst men for his versatility and regarded by the people as one of the better knowledge and keener insight than the debater will inescapably envy him or become jealous of him and wish that the favors which he receives might vanish from him and the hearts of the people might be diverted from him and rather turn towards him. To be sure, the envy is like the burning fire, and if one is afflicted with it, he will live in the punishment in this world, even though the punishment of the hereafter is much grievous and more severe. For this reason, it's narrated that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, "Take and learn knowledge wherever you find it, and accept not the sayings of jurisprudents against each other. For indeed they are jealous of one another in the same way as the bulls are in the cattle fold." So we shouldn't even, from this, that we shouldn't even listen to those speeches which are directed towards defeating each other's school of thought and so-called sects. There are no sects otherwise. Sectarianism is not there in Islam. We shouldn't make sects at all. So, but sometimes we have schools of thought, and when we start declaring our school of thought better than others, then it becomes a sect, which is not right. We shouldn't make sects. And the other one is arrogance and pride over the people. That's the debater, like the debater get these things. Allah Almighty raises him up in the degree and superiority and raises levels, raises his respect, raises his honor. It's further narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, relating from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "No doubt magnificence constitutes my lower garment, and majesty constitutes my upper garment. If one disputes with me over any of both, surely I will smite him." And the debater cannot be free from showing arrogance and pride over his fellows and rivals, and exalting himself beyond his just and real estimate, to the extent that he and his colleagues fight over their seats in the gatherings and pride themselves on the degree of their elevation and lowliness, as well as their closeness to or farness from the central seat. Does this happen or not? He does. Why did he call me on the stage? Why wasn't I like invited to the stage, to sit on the stage? And why was I sitting behind? So this kind of arrogance should not be there. The next is the feeling of resentment is also one of those blameworthy traits from which the debater could hardly be free. In this respect, it's narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "By no means should a faithful believer be resentful." There are certain narrations in condemnation of resentment as are not hidden. You could hardly find a debater who is unable not to entertain the feelings of resentment against anyone who would nod his head in acceptance of the argument of his adversary, or would not wait for him with politeness to show his good attention when he takes a pause in the middle of his speech. So when he sees that, he would be forced to entertain the feeling of rancor, and it is hypocrisy which lies behind his persistence. in concealing his rancor, even though in most cases it inevitably oozes to be apparently visible on him. And how could he be free from that, since it is unimaginable to guarantee unanimous agreement of all of the audience upon his speech and approval of all his conclusions and deductions. And moreover, if his adversary shows even the less in consideration of his speech, the feeling of resentment will be planted in his heart along his life. So he will never uproot from himself until the end of his life. So you are trying to defeat a person just to and win yourself, but you're getting happy on the defeat of others, that I am right, he's wrong, and you're getting the boastfulness. It's not good. It's not good. The other thing which these kind of religious debates bring to is backbiting, or ghiba. Backbiting is also amongst the blameworthy traits which Allah Almighty likens to eating the flesh of the dead. However, the debater keeps eating the flesh of the dead, as shown from the indirect reporting of the speech of his adversary. So what we do is, we are always, whenever we are getting in the debate or in argumentation with each other, we're debating over something and we are backbiting people, that, oh, such and such person is this, such and such person did this, look, like even we are commenting on people's personal family life just to boast ourselves and just to uh, show to the other person, just to show like just to defeat the other person, and you know, show that our leader or our beloved is superior and your leader is not superior and he's inferior. So we're like, we're backbiting. And so another thing is that when we are backbiting, we are trying to say that we are pious people, which is wrong. You should not boast of your own righteousness. And some people even make their faces look as sinners, so that people may not start thinking that they are pious people, although they are very pious people. And some people also, they act upon the sunnah, the conspicuous things of sunnah as well, from the dress point of view, and they are also doing the right thing because they are acting on sunnah. Both are right. But what is wrong is to deliberately show to the people that, oh, I'm a very pious person, I'm naik, and this thing is not good at all. And that's why Quran says, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Don't try to show yourself as pious persons. He knows who is pious amongst you and who fears him. And it was said to a wise man, which kind of telling the truth is hateful? He said once, praising himself, even though it is justified. And a debater in most cases could hardly be far from praising himself with his power, the ability to overcome his opponents, and his superiority to his fellows. He also could hardly be free from repeating in the course of a debate, I am not those from whom all such things could be hidden. And I'm well versed in science of independent knowledge of the foundations of law and retaining tradition. This kind of attitude a debater would show, and it should not be the character of a true Muslim. He should show humility, should be humble, down to earth. Like of that with which he would sing his own praise, sometimes out of sheer arrogance, and at other times out of the need to make convincing his words. It's well known that the arrogance and self-praise are condemned by law and reason. Another thing which comes in these argumentations is the munazara, tajassus. Like in the munazras is tajassus, which is spyness. So a mention might be made of also spying and prying on into the privates of the people. In this respect, Allah Almighty says, and spy not onto each other. Spy not on each other. It's mentioned in Surah Al-Hujurat. So in this respect, Allah Almighty says, and spy not on each other, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, and the next, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, that don't backbite each other. So a debater could hardly be free from seeking after and prying into the faults and shortcomings of his fellows and opponents, to the extent that whenever he is informed of the arrival of another debater in his town, he delegates somebody to know his innermost states and disclose, by way of questions, his vices, which he takes as ammunition to use in scandalizing and putting him to shame when there is need for that. Don't we do that? Don't we do that on social media? Don't we do that on WhatsApp? Don't we do that on Facebook? We always spy on our leaders, our hosts, our anchor persons, our scholars, and we go into their private lives and we say that such and such person was doing such and such things. This is useless. We shouldn't do that. This is not a Muslim thing to do. A Muslim should be free from these things. And then another thing is to rejoice the grief of the people. If you are giving a person a grief by defeating him into the debate and you are rejoicing it, that's not what it should be. We shouldn't rejoice their grief. We shouldn't take happiness out of that. And the next thing is hypocrisy. Like when you meet your opponent, you hug him, you embrace him, and in the debate, you are talking about the family life of the same person and you're humiliating him. What a shame. If you're hugging him, you should at least show some respect the next day as well. And you shouldn't humiliate him. Respect your hugging. It's good to hug other people. It's good to show love, but you should maintain that when he's not in front of you as well. So that's the hypocrisy. And another thing which Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, says is so it's the same thing that we shouldn't rejoice the opponent's what opponent, like what is happening to the opponent, and then disdain from accepting the truth. That's the next thing Imam Sahib says, that what we do is we disdain from accepting the truth, even if the debate's whole purpose is to get to the truth. And if we are trying to prove ourselves as the truthful and we are at right thing and the other person is wrong, then then we are not serving Islam, and we are serving our own point of view. It's a kind of shirk that we are trying to, we are making our point of view to be more correct than others, and we are defending it to the extent that even if the other person says the right thing, we are not able to accept it. We shouldn't be like this. And then another thing is the showing off and flattering people in an attempt to attract and mislead them. So showing off, that is certainly a shirkul asghar, that this is the minor shirk, one of the minor shirk, which is uh, explained in hadith, is the riya, boastfulness and flattering, and also mainly showing off. So showing off is the minor shirk. And showing off is a potent disease which leads to committing the greatest of the major sins, as will be treated in the book of showing off. And of a surety, the real intention of a debater is but to show off before the people and attract their tongues to run with praises over them. Now, if you have to debate, be a very good debater, smiling face, and trying and appreciating the goodness in others, and trying to find the common things. That was like, be like Dr. Zakir Naik, that all the Hindu people, they respect him because he is trying to extract the common things between Hinduism and Islam, between the Christianity and Islam, between the Bible and Quran, between the Vedas and that, with the great love and affection. And that's how it should be. And then these are the 10 traits. And then there are other traits, for example, uh, like which lead to the exchange of blows, kicking, boxing, tearing garments, plucking beards, cursing parents, denouncing teachers, outright slander, anger, hatred. All these things can, you know, can take origin, can be originated from these aimless debates. We shouldn't do that. So whatever we do, whatever we discuss, whatever we talk to each other should benefit ourselves as well as others in the hereafter, or in both hereafter and the dunya, in this world as well as the hereafter, or otherwise only in the hereafter. But, or even if it should be beneficial in the dunya, but it shouldn't harm others in any way. And even if we are doing something for the dunya, for this world, our intentions should be for the hereafter. So, because we don't know when the angel of the death comes, and when it comes, we have to go. And one of my dear friends passed away last night, Dr. Muhammad Amin. He was an extremely good person. May Allah forgive him. May Allah enter him in Jannah. And it's a lesson for us that death can come to us at any time. There is no time. We don't know it is when it can come. And when it comes, we have to go. So we should get ready for that. And we should try to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in each and every way. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على النبي الأمين اللهم آمين بحرمة النبي الكريم الأمين الرؤوف الرحيم عليه وآله الصلاة والتسليم وبرحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.